Hello and welcome to another video on Ascend to the Skies. If you have been following this channel by now, you must have learned that I'm learning how to fly an airplane. And I'm working towards my private pilot license and I fly a Cessna 152. I'm learning and my home base is at Essen-Mulheim Airport in Germany. So today I'm back with another video where I'm gonna review another lesson of mine. I am trying I'm working towards my first solo. I'm not there yet because I'm doing a lot of landing drills. So I'm using ForeFlight for navigation and as well as collecting telemetric data for my flights. And I will be doing my flight review or a debrief based on the data that was collected. I fly. This is the Essen-Mulheim Airport. The field elevation is 424 feet, and the pattern altitude is 1400 feet at mean sea level. If you see, yesterday the runway 24 was active, and I was flying the right hand traffic pattern. The right base, if you have a look, is we are not supposed to fly beyond that because of noise abatement issues. I've heard a lot of rich people live beyond in Essen, Bredeney, and they don't like to be disturbed with the noise of Cessnas. So we have to respect that. And that is also one of the challenging parts as well about flying there, because the final is not just straight in. It's a little, you have to change your heading a little. Then let me go to my logbook, and this was my yesterday's lesson. Yesterday I practiced landing, and I practiced 9 landings. The first 6 landings were done with 30 flaps. The sixth landing was done with flaps 20. Uh, second last was with flaps 10, and the last one was without flaps. The flying conditions yesterday were a little challenging as well. Yesterday, um, I used to be in my up until my third or fourth lesson. I used to be quite afraid of the wind, and the wind used to push me here and there. So I was still, as the aircraft was flying under some the influence of wind and some turbulent conditions. It did made my heart beat a little faster, but I did. But now it's fun to fly in windy conditions. It is a little challenging. But now I've got used to it, and wind doesn't bother me any longer. Yesterday we had quite some. We had around 12 knots of wind coming from the northeast. The conditions were rather gusty, which you will see that um, I was using a lot of right rudder to just maintain my the pattern as well. So let's go through each and every landing, and we'll see um, how all of these landings went. One of the most challenging things, at least for me at this stage, is that to to assess the correct glide path, whether I'm too high or too low, and to always land in the touchdown zone. This is the thing that I'm struggling with at this moment, and and to make it a little bit more challenging, the flight instructors um, change the flap configurations as well. So, and even also in gusty conditions, because they want, of course, me to fly solo, and they want to be prepared for each and every condition. So, so the first landing was done with flaps 30. This is me taxiing towards runway 24, and we departed. Now you will see that the wind is coming from the northeast, and now here you will see that the wind starts me to push me a little off course. At this point, I'm using my rudder to come back, and now again, um, here I offshooted a little, but I'm back on my in the right downwind. as well. So it was very important to understand the pattern, understand all of the landmarks as well, to orient which landmark would be towards the right, towards the left. And the heading indicator was, of course, not much of a help. But of course, we yeah, I have to fly in downwind, a heading of 060. Um, so the first landing was done with flaps 30, and I did manage to maintain my altitude of 1400 feet, more or less. Um, you could also see in my ground speed, normally without any wind or with less wind, downwind I'm doing 90 knots at 1400 feet, but because of the influence of the wind, um, I'm already doing around, you can see that my ground speed is around 74 knots. So that is the influence of the wind. Um, at this point, I'm abeam the threshold. Carb heat is on at this point. I have a look at my airspeed. If it's in the white arc, flaps 10. I maintain my altitude at this point. I make my radio call, and as I'm turning towards the right base, I start descending. Um, it's and I'm the thing that I'm looking for is that at this point I should be around 1100 feet. And this is flaps. At this point, I also have flaps 20. So for flaps 30, my target speed is around my reference speed is 55 knots and plus 5 for the influence of the wind. So I should be doing 60 in the final. But um, here I'm doing flaps 20, but I am a little faster at this point. And I, of course, um, yeah, by mistake, I disturbed the neighbors as well, but just once. um, then I come back to the final. At this point, I at this point I'm probably a little too slow, 50, 60 knots of ground speed. This is probably me being a little too slow at this point, and as you will see that more or less I'm doing around 58, 55 knots. And then at this point, probably I round out, and this is the least speed, 46 knots. So I'm guessing this is where I landed, and this is where where I touched down, which is well within the runway threshold. So this seems fine at this point, and this landing was not too bad. The second landing, this time, of course, I take extra care that I do not, I maintain my traffic pattern. Second landing, this time, um, here I'm doing, um, I have to be around 1100 here, but I think so I'm doing well at this point. Um, and probably I touched down more or less in the same area for this landing. And at this point, my speed was around 65 for flaps 30. So which is also fine. Third landing, again, doing 65, 41, and touching down more or less in the third, in the right place. So my landings are surely improving, and my flare assessment of my flare height is also improving. So this is my fourth landing. This time ground speed is around 62. This is again ground speed. Of course, I fly with air speed as I fly with air um, with the indicated airspeed as well. So of course, this is just like a reference because this does not take into this also takes but this is just a little guidance and a help in my case. Um, if there is no wind, then probably it's a little bit more accurate, but in this case, it does at least provide me with a little guidance. Here, my least speed is around 45. So touching down in the right areas, this would be probably my fifth landing. Let this fifth landing 37 at this point. Here I'm doing 60, and I here where the speed gets uh, where the speed is reduced. This is probably I'm doing my round out, which is the second. I'm aiming for the second arrow, and this is where I am rounding out. And if you see the height more or less, then this is 434. And I guess I'm rounding out at around 15 feet, because if you 15 to 20 feet, which is probably a little higher, but I'm trying to perfect my skills. Let me go back and see which landing this is. So let me have a look at the. Let me go now from the last landing, which is we're done with zero. We're done with zero flaps, and let me go back from the last landing. So this landing is with zero flaps. The target speed in this case is around 65, and my reference speed is 65, and target speed is around 70 knots. And the most important bit, the most important learning bit for me was to start descending a little early with flaps in ops. This was the big learning from me. And as you see that I am when I'm in the threshold, I'm already descending, and I'm at this turn where I normally usually maintain around 1400 feet when I am flaps 30. I'm already 1100 feet at this point. And at this turning, I am 840, 300 feet lower than I'm with 30 flaps. And at this point, I'm maintaining around 66 ground speed. Um, this is probably, and this is my lowest ground. No, this is I would because this was a full stop landing, but this probably is where I touched down, and because of zero flaps, I touched down way further down the runway. So this one is definitely with zero flaps landing. The landing before this was was with flaps 10. In this case, I am also around 1,000 feet at this point. With flaps 10, I should be maintaining around 65 knots of target speed. And I'm again more or less it's ground speed again. So probably I'm if I correctly remember, I was probably managing that speed. Lowest speed is in this case is 47. So I'm also in the touchdown zone, and the landing before it, this should be with flaps 20. So with flaps 20, I'm more or less the same height at this point as I'm in with flaps 30. And with flaps 10, I should be doing somewhere also around 65 knots. Um, and I also landed more or less in the touchdown zone. So I think so. I was quite satisfied yesterday with at least my assessment of the glide path, and I'm again getting used to different flap configurations. Probably now I have to refine my skills a little. I need to prove this to some other teacher as well. And if they check my progress, and if a second instructor also gives his thumbs up with my landings, then probably I will be doing my very first solo pretty soon. So I'm quite excited about that day, and hopefully I will be able to achieve this milestone. Um, I hopefully in August, which is what I'll be aiming for, if the weather allows, of course. But this is what I'll be aiming for, and I'll try to record that lesson, and we'll try to post it, my learnings and my findings from the day here as well. So if you manage to stick around at this point, then thank you for following my progress, and I'll be back with another video.